So this is lizard skin that Joe's doing, which is a sound deadener. And we're going to use the ceramic thermal stuff on the bottom. But this is a good time to get it all done before we start doing wiring and other things. So if you ever wondered how lizard skin sprays, here's a good example. Alright, so let's check out the lizard skin sound control. As you can see, the entire interior, firewall, etc., under seats, back area have been done. The wheel wells, anywhere that you have thin metal that can be, noisy, including the, we actually did the insides of the quarter panels. So we've done just about everything that you would want to do to help keep sound and temperature control down. So this is the Spies Heckler base coat in the vintage burgundy color on these doors. 3 nice coats of base. They're looking good. Got the fenders sitting here ready. I love to shoot these on stands and shoot them off separately. Anyway, looking good. Alright, so the fenders and doors have been shot for the Mustang. I love to shoot all the parts off the car, including hood, trunk, everything, and just leave the torso of the car for paint. But I'm now starting the color sanding. I'm going to try to switch hands and show you guys the tool that I'm using for this. This is a water-cooled or water-supplied DA sander, and I'm using a 1500 grit 3M Trizac pad. So you start with 1500, then you go to 3000, then you go to 5000, and then you polish. So it's a very, very arduous, time-consuming process. But this little device actually feeds water as you sand, and so it's literally as easy as just floating it along the top like this. So now this door has been done with 1500 everywhere except around where the door handles go. There's no point in risking the paint for an area that's covered by the door handles. Now you'll notice the top piece here, I have not done that yet, and it almost has a laser perfect flat finish, but the fact is, this is going to be laser perfect, so this is going to have to be as well. But this is a more delicate by hand operation. So now I'm starting on the other door. I take them off the tree and I lay them on their side. It makes it easier to get to the harder to reach areas, plus the tree isn't as stable when you're sanding on it. But in certain areas where there's a lot of really rough texture, I start off sometimes with 800 grit wet paper by hand and then move to the air tool. Alright, so on this door I've done a pass of 1500 with the Waterbug wet DA, and this is what you look for. After you dry it off, you see here, that's still orange peel, and of course the shiny spots are areas that I didn't even really hit. I stay away from the edges. I do all the edges by hand, but you can see that for the first pass, what you want to get is everything where it eventually is like no reflective dots anywhere, and you want to do that with a block or a larger surface so that you don't get ripples. Now by hand, there's a lot of controversy. Should you use your fingers or not? I use my fingers and I lay them long ways and I do creases together, and my cars have all turned out beautiful, so that's fine. And this is one of the front fenders that is essentially done, and you'll notice, other than some water here, you look everywhere and you try to find anything that's not been taken all the way down flush and flat, including up underneath the lip, etc., and all around the edges. You got to be very careful with the edges. Alright, so these fenders have now been hand wet sand with 3000 grit Trizac pads, and you can see there's actually a faint sheen coming off. Even though it's still dull looking, you're starting to get a bit of a polished effect. So now what we do is we switch from the 3000 to these 5000 Trizac foam pads. So a 5000 grit pad, I mean, it's to your fingers, it doesn't even feel like there's any grit at all. But this is the same as essentially a white buffing compound. So when you go over the fender with this is like you are white buffing compounding. Some guys can go straight from this to a final machine polish. So now I have the 5000 grit pad on my Waterbug, but before I hit the fender, I've already toweled it down, because the last thing you want to do is induce large scratches based on the fact that you had grit. And I've always found it a good idea to prep the fender with a little bit of water. Even though the bug supplies its own water, you want to make sure you're not starting off on a dry surface. So I give it a nice little mist down, and we will take the little bug and give it a shot. As you can see, it's just as smooth as glass. And you're just going to work it nice and slow. Again, stay off the edges. Even though this is ultra fine, why risk it, right? And you can see there's just a little bit of white foam coming up. That means it's not cutting that much. It's just really taking up the scratches from the 3000. All right, so this has been hit with the 5000, and again, there's a reflective, almost like it's been polished, but yet there's not that dark, rich color that you see here on the clear itself. But I promise you, after buffing, this will be beautiful. So here are the buffing tools that I'll be using. This is just a big DeWalt, powerful buffer. This is the one I use for all the large areas and 90% of the work. Then over here I have a small pneumatic 3-inch. I use this for sharp edges, creases, areas that are hard to get to, areas where I want to go slow and easy. Then you have your pads, okay? So your white pad, and by the way, if you use the 3M Perfected system, and I sound like a 3M commercial and I don't mean to, but you can't go wrong with 3M, that's the truth. Your pad is white, the compound is white. Everything's color coordinated to make it super easy. So I use the Trizac 1500, 3000, 5000 paper. Then I use the white and the black. So this is your classic rubbing compound, and this is called machine polish. And this is a brush for cleaning your pads. Now this is an older pad. It's got some chew up work on it. The pad's getting a little old. If I were going to use this pad, what I would do, let me switch hands, is spin the wheel, and then I would hit it with this brush, and you can see it throws a lot of the old polish off of the wheel, and that's how you clean your wheel. After it dries, you can just clean it up before you use it each time. Occasionally, I'll actually take a pad if it's in really good shape and use a little bit of Dawn, and I'll hand wash it and then spin it out and dry it real well. All right, so I'm going to put new pads on. And I think I'll start with the black, because the 5000 is supposed to act as the white compound. And I'll see, but generally I do the white no matter what. But let's try it. All right, so I hit this directly with the Perfected machine polish. And you can see now it's looking more like a show car. However, if you look really close, there's still a little haziness here and there. And that's just not acceptable. And yes, I could do layer after layer after layer and keep with the machine polish, but instead I'm going to now use the white compound instead, then the machine polish. That's the way I normally do it. If it works, stay with it. All right, so this fender has been done with white buffing compound, right? So if you were doing like an old car and it was a real light color, I've known people that actually just stopped here because they were like, oh, look, it's all shiny. But it's clearly not ready for prime time yet. And so what I'm doing right now is with the very clean rag, I'm making sure that there's no residual compound anywhere on the fender. And then I'm going to do the black. That is a color sanded fender. So that has been done all the way down to the last stage. There are no swirl marks. There is zero orange peel. Everything is laser straight, and it would be ready for a really nice machine waxing after the clear cures a little longer. Even though this speeds cures much faster than most, I'd really like for clear to outgas for a long time. So these will get covered in something very, very soft like felt, and then they will be placed in storage. And then once the car is assembled, that's when we'll probably do the machine polish, because it's a little easier once everything's on the car as well. But as you can see, it's just gloss all the way. Man, I want this Mustang for me. all electric, 66 convertible. It's gonna be tooling around Hollywood. All right, both front fenders fully color sanded, glossed out, show car quality. Oh, you have no idea about the amount of work it takes. Anyway, 2 fenders down, 2 doors to go, hood, trunk, valance, trim pieces, and then the entire quarter body door jamb area. But I like it. It's going to be a gorgeous electric Mustang.